Legend tells of a child who had legitimate blood, smitten with tales and songs of his ancestors, and leaving the luxurious life to become a phantom thief. He steals from the rich nobles and gives to the poor. His noble character was maintained even during this time, using his weaponry only to threaten and not to kill. The sword by his side was a great house's pride, and he stole it from where it'd been laid. And a bow so black that he wears on his back, never once fired in vain. A jolly fellow who would often sing and drink, spending time with friends rather than to pursue women, until he encountered one that captured his heart. Hey guys, it's Clementine here, and in this Genshin lore video, we'll be taking a dive into the story of Parsifal, a noble of Mondstadt. In a time where nobles ruled over the commoners, there was someone who wanted to change this course. A story of both chivalry and disobedience, written upon the books of Mondstadt. Let's get started. Starting with the first chapter, the Robin Hood of Mondstadt.
I was once a noble, wanting to use my strength to turn this dark world around. Reading the tales of my ancestors sowed seeds of insurgency in my heart. That night, when the time came, I left my famed house, stealing our noble longsword, and hid myself in the streets. Roaming the dark alleys like a common folk, robbing the riches of perfumed nobles and giving it to the poor. This is my life, a story that is to be sung in secret, but I care little, as I try to give the unfortunate a little courage to face tomorrow and stand up to the powers that oppress them.
Starting from the late aristocracy period, Parsifal was a noble of Mondstadt, born under Landric's clan. He had two brothers named Ingbert and the other, Eberhart, who had illegitimate blood. At a young age, Parsifal used to read books and was inspired by the stories of famous tales that happened in the early aristocracy period. He would act out their chivalrous deeds and had dreamed of helping the common folk. Due to this ambition of morality ignited from a young age, his illegitimate brother, Eberhart, took the chance to influence him into becoming a phantom thief. Eberhart described it as someone who would steal not to gain material wealth, but to correct a moral wrong. Fooled with his taste for righteousness, Parsifal left their home and stole the sword, the Alley Flash, from his family's vault. There he roamed the dark alleys and taverns like the common folk, hiding himself in the shadows of the people he would soon protect, and put his noble swordsmanship to use by robbing the rich to give to the poor. During that time, the people were afraid to light their streetlights during nighttime. Maybe because the aristocrats forbid the people to light some parts of the city, wanting to hide their immoral acts of corruption and slavery committed during the night. This was explicitly mentioned in the Alley Flash again, where it says, "The darkened blade blended into the nights of yore with ease. For in those days, people feared to light fires in the nighttime. According to the songs of some bards, it was stained black during the age of the aristocracy." Due to this, Parsifal used it to his advantage and thus had no difficulty escaping and hiding whenever he would get caught. Sometime along the way, he also acquired a bow, the Alley Hunter, and used it in his future robberies, bringing fear into those in power, giving them countless sleepless nights in their impotent rage. As much as Parsifal wanted to give all of his stolen goods to the poor, he traded some of it to a mysterious shopkeeper who had fox-like eyes and has a shop that is said to be widely popular around Tevat. This shopkeeper was no ordinary merchant, because when entering their shop, a pattern or ritual is needed to be performed. To reach that place, one must stand in the center of the plaza and close their eyes. Walk 7 circles clockwise around the plaza, followed by 7 anti-clockwise circles. Take 40 paces forward and then wait till the cries of the birds can no longer be heard in the wind. Upon opening one's eyes, one will find they have arrived at a little shop. It is here where Parsifal would sell some of his loot and would tame some Mora to provide for his personal needs. He would often visit this shop, thus believing himself as the shopkeeper's oldest loyal customer. As mentioned in the volume 3 of the Heart's Desire, as the shopkeeper turned around, Parsifal sat nonchalantly on her armchair in the part of the shop that the moonlight did not reach. He uttered the words,
Hey, business any good these days?
Business is fine. How about you? How's the hunt?
Well, I discovered recently that the feeling of longing for someone is heavier to carry than gold. In my line of work, I am forever leaping between rooftops and running along rafters. I need to cut out whatever unnecessary weight I can. I wonder if the girl with the sapphire blue eyes feel the same weight that I feel.
As the two exchanged words, Parsifal had not expected this feeling of love for someone. Wanting to relieve himself from it, he chose to drink and forget every moment he once cherished. As he left the shopkeeper's venue, returning back to his old ways of being a phantom thief, he would soon discover that it was all a concept of deception. Heart of Depth, the second chapter, A Love at First Sight.
Fatal flaws are born of a fear of death. Fear of death is born of having things and people to care about. Oh, how I wish to see him but one more time, that thief who can neither be caught or killed. Oh, how I wish to hear his song but one more time. If I should survive, I shall certainly treat him with a maiden's love.
In this second chapter, we will go back and first explore the events that led to that conversation in the previous chapter. Now, with Parsifal's success of being a gentleman thief, the commoners loved him. This was not only a general type of love, but a romantic love as well. Whenever Parsifal would enter a tavern, maidens would flock by his side, trying their best to get his attention. Yet, Parsifal would ignore all of them, as he would rather drink with friends than care for romance. Nevertheless, this would change until a certain night, when he was leaving a mansion with stolen goods. He noticed a woman in a window whose eyes were as blue as the gem in the silver cup he had just stolen. Struck by her beauty, Parsifal climbed up to her, pried the blue gem out of the silver cup he had stolen, and gave it to her as a gift. As mentioned in the Wine and Song weapon, losing no time, the thief made his climb, and prying the gem from its place, he gave it to her, and a bashful smile stirred and crept up upon her face. This unknown woman is only known as the Blue-Eyed Spear Witch, and she was the previous owner of the Crescent Pike and had sapphire blue eyes and a noticeable scar. Her origin is currently unknown, and it appears that she's a slave in a noble's house. She is described as knowledgeable with magic and the art of the spear. However, it is unclear at what point in her life she learned magic and when she mastered the spear. But it is also said that she is a witch who could see death before it took place, and was able to visualize the fatal flaws in anyone she encountered, and designed a spear to be able to target and strike those fatal flaws. There are no actual details of the events that followed after Parsifal saw this mysterious woman. We can only imagine that Parsifal promised to meet her again soon and left, carrying his stolen goods from the mansion. At some point, the Blue-Eyed Witch's master found out about this blue gem in her custody, thinking that she was the one who stole it. Unknowingly, the blue gem that Parsifal gave to her as a gift had the crest of the ruling family on it. The Blue-Eyed Witch was then punished for this unjustified act as she was tortured by the aristocrats. Due to this, the Blue-Eyed Witch blamed her misfortune on Parsifal, saying that if it hadn't been for the gift, she wouldn't have been punished so harshly. The relationship became rather complicated after this point, as she reasonably blamed him for her injuries but still harbored feelings for him. It was then that Parsifal would visit the mysterious shopkeeper and led to the conversation they had, demonstrated in the first chapter. Now as he exited the mysterious shop, he thought that he would continue with his life of being a phantom thief. Unexpectedly, he would eventually find out that his illegitimate brother, Eberhart, had tricked him and blackmailed him into leaving Mondstadt, or else his true identity would be known and would be imprisoned by the aristocrats. Powerless as he is, Parsifal accepted Eberhart's demands and fled to Liyue, taking only a slim sword known as Iron Sting, and a blue feather, and burying the rest of his weapons such as the Alley Flash and the Alley Hunter. He became depressed and decided to spend the rest of his life drinking alcohol to forget his past. As for the Blue-Eyed Witch, not knowing what happened to Parsifal, she would eventually trade the sapphire gem that he gave to her as a gift for the silver cup that used to hold the gem for reasons unknown. As mentioned in Heart's Desire,
A burglar pried this from an aristocrat's silver goblet. He gave it to me as a gift, and then I was punished by my master for it. But that was many years ago. I had thought that with the passage of time, my anger would be quenched, and my desire to see him again would fade away.
it would appear that she never met Parsifal again, as she promised him that someday she would pay him back for the scars inflicted on her due to his actions. Then, at some point, she took on Eberhart as a disciple, and she taught her the method of fighting with the spear. During a training session, she was distracted and sat down to rest her thoughts. She missed Parsifal greatly and would plead for a chance of seeing him again.
Oh, how I wish to see him but one more time, that thief who can neither be caught or killed. Oh, how I wish to hear his song but one more time.
It was at this point that Eberhart, being the cruel and manipulative person as he is, noticed the opportunity and killed her while she was distracted, perhaps to keep his mastery with the spear a secret. It would appear that at the end of the description of the Crescent Pike, the Blue-Eyed Witch was talking to herself but was cut short. This can be evidence that she wasn't expecting Eberhart behind her, as he already struck her before she could finish her sentence. Heart of Depth, the third chapter, A Sail of Redemption. As Parsifal looked above, he described how the moonlight illuminated her sapphire eyes and that striking scar. In his memory, her countenance grew brighter, beautiful, cold, and proud. As he wandered the ocean waves, he would still not forget the items and memories that he once cherished. In his mind, Parsifal will someday return the favor for the mark of humiliation that his brother left upon him. Still sad over his brother's deception and his failure to reconcile with his lover, Parsifal became an alcoholic who drowned himself in the demon drink to forget his past. However, he soon found his redemption and fell in with a person only known as the Skipper, and became his chief mate despite his alcoholic tendencies. The Skipper had his story told in the book series Tales from the Waves. To summarize his story, The skipper made a living out of tracking down and hunting dangerous sea monsters. One day, the skipper and his crew would encounter a beast whose size was so large for them to handle. His crew would get annihilated, even though they fought with courage and bravery. He, however, was spared by the beast and would lose consciousness. He eventually woke up on a merchant ship and since then vowed for revenge. Now going back to Parsifal, he enlisted in this skipper's crew, becoming his chief mate. Reading from the Gust of Nostalgia, that is the same blue feather that Parsifal carried as he fled to Liyue. The cynical chief mate was no native of Liyue. Rather, he came from a grey land ruled by a certain aristocracy. All said, he too was once such a noble, but that he must have disgraced his house and been turned out as a result. He was approached by Skipper and told Parsifal, "Hey now, didn't you sign a contract with the ship when you came aboard? That memory didn't get washed down with the wine, did it? Good. Then, after all, it is time to fulfill your contract."
Is that so? Well, alright. Doesn't matter anymore, anyway.
When the skipper went to get his revenge for his old crew, Parsifal followed. This moment was mentioned in the Heart of Depth artifact set. Later, the wanderer would throw in with the skipper and set out to sea, contending with great waves and sea creatures alike. That once azure blue feather would also be stained red by blood, and by the salt of the great ocean. As they raised the anchor and set sail from Liyue harbor, they managed to track down the same monster and slay it at the cost of their own lives. In his last moment, he clearly recalled those days, now drowned in drink, like treasure in the sand, brought to light by the lapping waves. In conclusion, Parsifal's story is one that has a tragic ending. As a nobleman who wanted to do acts for the greater good, he was deceived by one of his brothers. Struck with sadness, Parsifal wouldn't meet his lover again and would never discover that Eberhart used the blue-eyed spear witch's love for him to eventually slay her. But as mentioned in Wine and Song, in the latter days of righteous governance, there are none left who sing of the gentleman thief, nor are such thieves needed anymore. Wine and swords, maidens and heroes, a carefree opening, and a happy ending. This vulgar sort of tale tends to be popular with the people, for no matter how the real story went, or how the two truly ended up, Wine and Songs brim with hope. From this, the people of Mondstadt, who never learned the true ending to Parsifal and the blue-eyed witch's tragic relationship, wrote songs that gave them a happy ending as a motivational tale for future readers. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video about the sad story of Parsifal. It is truly fascinating that his story was connected with some parts of the Heart's Desire and the Heart of Depth. With the release of the Alley Flash and the Alley Hunter, it also gave us more details about the backstory of Parsifal. Now, as always, thank you very much for watching, and if you think it deserves one, give this video a like. Once again, my name is Clementine, and as usual, until the next one, be safe and stay tuned.